the non-public session and put it back towards the end of the meeting like we usually do, because we don't have anybody here that we're trying to be respectful of their time or anything like that. So we'll move that. We're going to skip approving old minutes because we're missing a couple board members and also we're missing Sandy. So we'll table that until next time. So I think, let's see, anything else for agenda review from you, Patty? Yeah, I've got a quick touch base. That's I'll leave it on there just because otherwise I'll forget to say what I want to say. Okay. So and I just wanted to note that we do have 2 excused board members tonight. So they did let me know and we're aware. So we will move right on to number 4 then is handbook changes. Yes, I will start with Dr. Morris.
Some of them are really just addressing some omissions from previous iterations of the handbook. So if pull up that document. All right, so the first one being that we did not include a vision of a graduate in our handbook up until this year, and that is something that we wanted to begin to reemphasize here at Pembroke Academy for a number of reasons. One, because it mirrors our social responsibilities, the New Hampshire work-study practices, and it's going to be something that NEAS is going to be looking for in a few years. So we wanted to make sure that we included the vision of a graduate in our handbook. Additionally, we did not have our school goals in our handbook, and we felt like that was a pretty glaring omission, so we wanted to add those. These are new goals for this upcoming school year. And they are, I won't get into all the descriptors, but work hard, be respectful, and be a Spartan. And to be a Spartan is really about trying to emphasize the importance of school community, particularly after a pretty fragmented school year. We really want to emphasize how important that is here in the building. Then we have dress guidelines. You'll see in the proposed language for the dress guidelines that they are very similar to the guidelines that were approved at the last meeting for Three Rivers School. We felt like that the language made a lot of sense, and we wanted to provide some consistency. I think we may have added a clause here or there, just specific to the high school, but all the high leverage stuff is very similar to what you approved at our last meeting. And then the last change was really just some modifications regarding behavioral expectations, and the changes are highlighted in the green text. And that's really academic dishonesty. We did see some of that last year when we were remote. I think it was a little harder to keep an eye on students as they were working during class periods. So we wanted to emphasize academic dishonesty. We have, you'll notice that there's also this bathroom stall violation. We've had some issues with students that go into a stall at the same time, and they are just in there socializing. And that is a hygiene issue, as well as, it's one of those things where it is behavior that's typical for students that are vaping, and we wanted to curb that behavior as well. So we want to not have more than one student in each bathroom stall. In addition to that, retaliation toward a witness or complainant during an investigation. Just that if there is an ongoing investigation, that a student is not to try to socially ostracize that other student in the investigation or confront them. And those are all things that we tell the students, tell the parents, but sometimes it's very difficult for students to um, restrain themselves in those situations. And then finally, under Tier 3, we just added the attempt to purchase for drug and alcohol, attempt to purchase for drug paraphernalia, and attempt to purchase for vaping and tobacco. We have language in the school board policies regarding attempt to purchase, but we didn't have it explicitly in our handbook, and we felt like we needed to make sure that we added that.
All right. Any questions for Dr. Morris? Go ahead.
So on the tier 3, where it has OSS, do we have the abbreviations written out anywhere what these mean?
I will have to look at the language for that. Let me see if I can find where that is. It does mean out of school suspension.
I just thought if there was a key somewhere.
Yeah.
And the other question I have is the dress guidelines on the second page, the new proposed language.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of discussion about the lengths of shorts. And I don't see anything in here that even talks about that. It's just, use good judgment.
So, there wasn't any language in the policy that was approved for TRS regarding length of shorts, and we wanted to be consistent with that. The other thing, I had someone a few years ago show me some student newspapers from Pembroke Academy from the early 1990s, and the issues that were talked about in those editions, some 30 years ago, were parking and dress code. So it's a thing that is always, always going to be there in a high school setting. But what I think was important for us was to make sure that this, that we're developing language that was gender neutral, and that we didn't want to chase fashion trends, because then you start putting things in there and you're never going to get to the end of that hole. So it's just, we tried to keep it as consistent with what was approved for Three Rivers, but also gender neutral that way too.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any others? Okay. We want to take action on these individually. Do you have a preference? Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion on these changes? Right.
I'll second.
All right. Any other questions or discussion? All right. All in favor of approving the changes to the PA handbook?
Aye.
Aye. Yes. Opposed and abstentions? Everybody? Okay. I do want to pause for a second because I'm not sure what happened with the agenda, but this snuck above public comment, which we usually do first. So if you guys don't mind, I'll open it up. We do have a couple people here in case that's why they're here. I'd like to. And we'll do our first public comment section. Try to remember all of the caveats for this. So obviously you have to be here to comment, try to keep it to 3 minutes. And it should be focused on items that are on the agenda this evening. So if anybody, it's limited to 15 minutes overall. So if there's anybody that wants to contribute to public comment, you can go ahead and come on up to the mic. Seeing none. Okay. I thought that might be the case. Mr. Marston. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, I'm not going to call on you yet because I got to find him. Oh, there you go. Okay, Miss Gary. Thank you. Any questions about the hill changes?
I have one, the packet we have here, it's not the whole book, but can you give me some more information about, the technology box? This, a follow-up question is, insulin pumps are now run off cell phones. So if it's that kind of situation, you would just need a note to tell them, I mean, you can't shut the phone off at that point. So, okay, right. Okay, thank you.
Others? I had one way back up towards the top. Updated bus transportation reflect current practice, allowing students to go to and from school on different buses if necessary. Can you expand on that? I know there's been some conversation in the past with space on the buses and people wanting to go different places, but sometimes they have to because they're going to mom's house or dad's house or daycare or whatever. Okay, great. Anything else? All right, is there a motion on these?
Approve the changes to the Hill School.
I'll second.
Okay, any other discussion or questions? All right, all in favor of approving the changes to the Hill School handbook?
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? Great. Okay, so let me get back to my jumbled up agenda here. All right, so that brings us to immediate business, even though I think that last one should have been under immediate business. So 7A is bus routes. I'm assuming that's you. Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so and I know, do we or can we have Dan for the non-public? Was it okay? Then yeah, I think there's nothing else on the agenda that you guys wanted to chime in on. You're free to go.
You get to
Yeah,
drive.
thank you. Sorry, Wendy. We appreciate your
Yeah,
service.
shut it off.
Or are these not the same as in the drive? Okay. Questions on this?
Patty, I just have a couple questions. So, is this going to, Pembroke has part of shut? So do they understand that? Okay. And do we have a route that is on actual 28? That was just another come spring. That bridge is going to be one. Oh, good. Okay. Because I couldn't figure out if there was, but those are the only two streets that we know of so far.
To follow that.
Right. Right. And are you getting information on a timely manner if we have to shut down a road or you are? Oh, good. Okay. Excellent. Thank you. That's all I had. Thank you.
Others?
But I was listening to Oh, is there any information as to if we don't have enough? Yeah. Right.
So do you want action tonight? Okay. So I'm happy to approve, but I know in years past it's gone through a few revisions. Can we make sure that this is, assuming it gets approved, put in a fairly visible location, so that anybody that might want to take a look and offer suggestions or request we add stops or whatever has a chance to do so sooner rather than later? Because I think okay.
I did have another question.
Sure.
Sorry.
Nope.
So Patty, what's the X dash ing? Do they have to cross a busy street? There's quite a few on church bottom, but oh, I'm sure.
That must be what it is because like on Buck Street, all of the ones that don't have that are odd number and the one that does is even. So it must be opposite side of the road.
Do we still have that bar that comes out?
That's a good
Some
question.
buses had a bar that came out, so the traffic. No.
No, no, there's like an arm on.
So kind of because everybody's running around the school buses. I haven't seen a school bus in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just there so they don't walk right underneath the hood.
So the driver can
so
still
they're
see
out
'em.
further.
The second question I have is on the last page, the pink bus. So we have my neighborhood, just has a few people in it. So it says CO Nadine, corner up, Nadine and Donna. Is that the CO? Is that what it means? Okay, sorry. I'm thinking care of. Excellent.
I had a question that's not, I guess, not specifically about the routes, but well, maybe this is more of a parent question, but I'll ask it anyway. There's a lot of children from all neighborhoods that come on my road, on Cross Road, to get to Three Rivers. Nobody stops at the crosswalk at the end of Crossroad that goes across Academy Road. Is that something that's best brought to the police to have them keep an eye on it?
What do you think?
Yeah, I noticed at the end of the year last year, they were kind of right between there and Three Rivers quite a bit. So hopefully, but I mean, even not like, even when it's adults, like we walk down there all the time and people don't even touch their brakes for that crosswalk.
Are you thinking like across the yard?
I don't know. I don't know if I thought about asking Jenny if there's any safe routes to school stuff that could be done. I don't think there's any flashing signs there. There's ones up and down that say
On a hill.
school zone, you know, but if they had the ones like they do on Hill right there, I mean, it's a ton of kids. Kids come from Donna Drive on their bikes and go that way. Kids come from the church and go that way. There's
Yeah.
probably 40 kids that go through there in the morning. And it'd be awful to have something happen.
Because the one on Hill, aren't those solar
I think so.
lights?
I think they were,
Tell you to slow down.
I think that was something that Jenny Jones did with the Safe Routes to School program. And I think it was all, I don't think we paid for it. I think it was grant funded or something. So maybe I'll reach out to her. Anything else on these or action? No? Motion? Yeah.
Oh.
We're good.
I move to approve the bus routes for the 2022 school year in Pembroke.
A second.
Okay, last chance for questions or discussion. Right, all in
I'm sorry.
favor? Oh, yep, no, go
I
ahead.
just have one. So at the end of Nadine, they're going to be opening that into the area where the country club a bit more. So, and if it's something that the bus director thinks that they could go that route instead of going back up onto 3, just let you know ahead of time when it gets approved. Okay. Oh, I'm sure. Well, I'm always thinking of letting you know when the street's going to be shut down, but not when we're opening. Okay, thank you.
So all in favor to approve the proposed bus routes for 21-22 school year? All in favor?
I
Opposed and abstentions? Wonderful. Okay, that brings us to 7B, which is Mr. Coughlin and CIP.
My quick question is, I get to run along with the CIP. So my question is, and a lot of residents are saying replacement of flooring. Can we have like the building? Because I know like exterior painting or something, some of these we can't say, okay, room 302. But can we have the building and like we have paving? So can we have like the areas or is it just the savings? So what the town does, a follow up.
Oh, yes.
So again, just to reiterate on that point, this report has been changed into a district-wide report because some years Hill School might need a little bit more than Three Rivers and PA and vice versa. And it's easier to allocate those numbers when that time comes, specifically on a replacement flooring or replacement cameras to what's needed where at that point in time. The numbers come from our annual history. The history has shown that we need these items and we need them at this rate of what we're asking for, but you just might not see it completely even throughout the schools on any given year.
I just have to follow up.
Sure.
So speaking of Jerry and all his questions, so when we go to each section of the town, you know, DPW, cemetery, all that, they physically see what needs to be done. So how does that relate to how the school does it?
So when that time comes, say for paving, for instance, if we've put $5 away for 3 years, and we're now going to pull that $15 out per CIP, I would be there saying, this year we intend on doing this section of tar,
Okay,
and would take you there if that was what was asked.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And have you done that yet this year, or when does the
That's
school
next
usually
week.
next week? Okay.
Yeah. So you being the school board will always see the updated report before we send it to the CIP.
Awesome. Can you speak to um, if any of these were modified based on some of the funds that we approved at the end of last school year? Or
So the roofing number was dropped by $5,000 because we were able to execute 2 roofs, or were about to. And there was more of a push last year for the roofs being those 2 specific needed to get done. Now we're back into putting a little bit away and planning for the future. We have a couple roofs on our immediate list, but they're not of the nature of the roofs that we accomplish off of what you allocated at the end of the year. Other items, the hot water heaters and dishwashers, we've lowered that because throughout time they've failed on us. Not the dishwashers per se, but our hot water heaters. And other than a hot water boiler in this district, which would go on the boiler end, we've done the hot water heaters over the last 3-4 years. So that's been adjusted. The tractors have been spread out, so you won't see as high numbers with the tractors because that's now on a 10-year plan for both of those. The mower was adjusted. Again, year-end funds, you guys allocated a mower. We adjusted it here accordingly to get them onto a 10-year plan. The utility vehicle, which for lack of better words is a John Deere Gator or of that sense. Again, you allocated it, we adjusted it. And the pickup truck on the new vehicle replacement capital reserve, those numbers are down because those are spread out now too.
awesome.
We haven't gotten that truck, but we are working on numbers to bring to you guys to go from there.
Awesome, thank you. How were you able to get any roofs done this year since it has rained every single day?
Yeah, so our roof, actually, you'll start seeing supplies show up hopefully this week. That's a moving target, specifically in the world we're living and working in. But as of right now, the SAU roof is planned to be started on Monday.
Awesome.
Once they finish the SAU roof here at PA, they'll go to the library roof. Again, it's a moving target until the product's on site. It is what it is.
Other questions for Josh?
What is the van?
The van, so last year we allocated half of the van. We'll ask for the other half this coming year. And then we'll adjust the CIP report accordingly off of if we receive the funding or if we don't.
Now, is that the food service van?
That's our van. That's the facilities van.
Okay,
So fleet-wise, district facilities has a truck and a van. Off of our fleet, the kitchen has a van. We maintain it for them, but that's their van on a separate account.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else? Okay. Anything else that you want to share with us, Josh?
No, I mean, I think it's pretty self-explanatory at this point. What I do on my end is once you guys say proceed, I go back and I'll go back to the office tonight and I'll send it over to the town and I'll put it more into their spreadsheet formatting that the CIP committee is used to seeing as opposed to this.
Yep, that sounds good. And I would say, to Ann's point, well, I guess the CIP committee will ultimately present it, but those notes as to what things are going to be paved this year and what floors are going to be done this year and stuff like that would be good to make public as soon as we can too.
So just in complete transparency, the bigger items such as the paving is much easier as opposed to the flooring.
Sure.
The flooring's more small, and as we get to that point in the year, we start looking at failures or what we know is older. But we work off the failures before we go to the replacement from age, etc. So just transparency.
So this is not CIP related, but since I've got you here, can I just ask? I know in the spring we had a is it a leaky water fountain that led to some flooring outside of the gym that needed to be taken up. Is that taken care of? I know I saw some asbestos people here at one point. I don't know if that was the floors.
So the water fountain issue, we truly believe was actually a toilet across the
okay.
hall that had failed umpteen months prior, and we saw the residual effects of it after. So that's been solved. That was solved in the winter time, maybe 2 days before the majority of the population came back. So it was perfect timing in that world. Asbestos wise, that's an annual ask at this point of removal that we put into the budget, and all asbestos that was planned has been abated at this point in time. And in this case, that was all flooring. So the flooring has been replaced. I think we're working on a small area down here at PA still. And all is on target at this point.
Great.
The abatements are very important to do in the beginning of the summer, because that's a true moving target. And if you blink one day, you might lose them for quite some time. So we're on target with all that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. So we will move on to 7C, which is back to school.
That's your-
What did I do? Oh, I didn't know I needed official action. My bad. Okay. Anybody want to make a motion on the CIP numbers?
I'll make a motion to present or move these items to the CIP as presented.
Second.
All right. Any other discussion or questions? All in favor of moving these numbers forward to the CIP committee?
Aye.
Aye. Abstentions. All right. Now we'll move on to 7C. Sorry about that. Back to school plan update. Is this still on? Sometimes this thing goes. All right, Patty, back to school.
Sure. So the plan went out in June that went to the Department of Education to meet the requirements to access our grant funding. I think most districts tried to keep it as simple as possible. I did receive, I set up the email address for people to provide feedback. Josh did it for all of our districts so that we could collect feedback in one place, and that's been really helpful. So I looked at all of the feedback. There was several comments appreciating that this plan was really simple and to the point. I think that at this point, most people know what the mitigation factors are and all of the things that we would put in place, and to give out another 150-page plan, which it's too overwhelming. And we heard from a lot of families that they just want the basics, and we kind of know what the hot topics are that they want answers to at this point. So we have been looking at guidance. Unfortunately, I'm sure most people have heard, it's been in the news that the CDC, this has all come as hard as we try to plan and work on these documents. Just last week, we started getting new guidance, and from the CDC, their recommendation is that everyone go back to school wearing masks. American Academy of Pediatrics has the same recommendation, and our New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services is suggesting that we look at local data. So they've asked all of the schools to consider what's going on in your communities, not even by region, but by town and by school. So to really focus in on what's happening and not make sweeping decisions based on what's happening in the rest of the country or even our neighboring districts. So we've learned a lot over the past year and a half, and have been, really fortunate to not be a place where the virus was spread, and we would like to keep it that way. In looking at your numbers, I just pulled it up today just to get a sense of where we are. And active cases right now in Pembroke, there are only 5. So, people were asked to wait by the Commissioner of Education until closer to the start of school to make the decisions about the masks. And I think people are starting to get nervous, and they're hearing more about the Delta variant and the wondering what's going to happen. I think that is the hot topic. That is all anybody wants to know, is whether we have to come back and wear masks. So right now we have updated the plan, the draft plan. We've made a few changes. My intention is to send that out tomorrow with a letter to the community, with a frequently asked questions document and a document that contains all the links for people who want them. So we're trying to really simplify this. And, some people really want to dive in and they want to look at all those documents. The links are there for them. They can just click on them. If somebody wants the down and dirty, just tell me what we're doing, that's there. And then we tried to think of the most frequently asked questions that we received from people and did that into a separate document, so that if you look at the plan and you're not sure about something, you can go to the questions. So when I send the letter and all of this attached tomorrow, we'll ask people to use the feedback email once again to collect feedback from the community. I'm going to ask people to let me know if they have questions that didn't get answered so we can add it to the FAQ document. And then in 2 weeks, I'd like us to be prepared to make a decision about, most importantly, the masks, because the rest of it is, like I said, we have things in place. We didn't feel the need to spell everything out. If things are, we'll take that as they come. We don't know what's going to happen, and to try and come up with every scenario, I think it's a waste of time, frankly. So we will just play it by ear. If something happens in a school, Wendy will send something out to families and say, hey, Mrs. Smith's classroom is going to mask up for 2 weeks. We have a student, or we had a student exposed. This is the nurse's recommendation. So we're going to try to just keep it really localized unless and until something happens that we need to readdress that. So simple is the key right now. And as of today, I have not changed my recommendation in terms of masks being optional. We did add something to make it clear that we're not saying they're not required. We're saying they're optional. So at this point, I would recommend that it's up to the family and their individual choice, and that students will be, and families and adults will be respected for that choice that they make. And we're going to make that very clear. So again, nothing in stone and nothing for you to approve tonight, but wanted to let you know where we were at, the work that we've done, and that I will send it all out tomorrow and collect feedback, give people, probably through the weekend at least, to look at everything and provide some feedback, and we'll see where everyone's at. I think that unfortunately it's probably divided. You're hearing some people speak up and say, we hope there's masks, and we hear some people saying, I certainly hope there aren't going to be masks. So that seems to be the hottest topic. But it's really important, especially we were talking today at the Hill School, we need to get back to doing morning meeting where you build community in the classroom. We need to do reading groups, so to keep the students all in rows, we're not going to go there until we have to. So we're trying to start as back to normal as we possibly can. And then we'll add mitigating factors, or, as we go, as we need to. But if there's only 5 cases in the entire town, then I don't think that it's necessary to put. Josh is on it with facilities. That's in the plan. I let people know the things that we'll still be continuing to do. So we're still focused on all those mitigating factors, but we're just trying to approach it based upon what's going on in our community.
Thank you. I want to take a minute because I failed to do something I was supposed to do. I got an email from a community member, and they asked me to share it at public comment, and I neglected to do that. Rather than waiting until the end, in case people are all signed off. It has to do with this topic anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and read it right now. This is from Melanie Camello to the entire board and Superintendent Sherman. Hello, I'm sure you already know that the Commissioner of Education is leaving mask policies up to local decisions. He stated parents should make your position known to the superintendent and your local school board. I wish I could attend the meeting tonight, but have family commitments and no childcare for this evening. I will watch remotely, but unable to publicly comment through that platform, so I was hoping to pass along my thoughts via email. Concord School Board passed the following mask policy last night. The school board approved 8-1 the following policy on masks. Quote, masks will be worn at all schools when indoors until the full vaccination rate of the city of Concord reaches 70%, or until a vaccine is available to elementary school-aged children, and a sufficient period of time has passed to allow families who so choose to vaccinate their children. If community transmission rates increase to substantial levels, mask requirements may continue, end quote. I'm hoping Pembroke will consider something similar until a vaccine is at least available for children under 12 years old for those wishing to vaccinate their children. The Delta variant is much different than what we saw last year. The 15-minute exposure time is out the window. The exposure time is now 1 second. Our only recourse is to add layers of protection, masks, for our unvaccinated population. We are already short on staffing and buses are short-staffed. That's a problem everywhere. Without masking and with the increased transmission capability of the Delta variant, we could be setting up a scenario where multiple classes need to quarantine, which will put a further strain on staffing. You will never be able to make everyone happy, but nobody will be happy if multiple classes need to be dropped to remote due to staffing shortages. If masking was required at drop-off, pickup, hallway transitions, on buses, circle time, and assemblies, we may be able to lower the risk of a staff shortage. The science shows that masks don't need to be worn outside and during recess, even with the Delta variant. It looks like even sitting in a desk 3 feet apart, that removing the mask with good ventilation is okay. Thanks for taking the time to read all of this. I'm sure it won't be an easy decision. There will be some who are upset no matter what you decide. I hope there can be some type of mask requirement in place to protect those unable to get a vaccine right now. Thanks for all you do. Kindest regards, Melanie Camillo, RN. Just wanted to get that out there. So we don't need action tonight. Discussion. You guys have anything that you want to get out there tonight?
I just have a couple of questions. I appreciate, Patty, when you're saying we're starting low key instead of starting, at DEFCON 5 and then work our way down. So I'm sure a lot of families are happy on that situation. The other question I had is, what is NHIAA on their masks so far? Because we had a lot of discussion with sports and masks.
I have to talk to Freddie about that. I haven't seen NHIA updates for the start of school. Josh, have you seen anything? Because you coach. Yeah, I haven't either. So I'm not sure that they've come out yet. If they have, I'll get that update for you next time.
Okay, thank you. And my second question is, in conclusion, it says, to come to this meeting this evening on August 17th. So when will the school board have the results of the survey?
So it's not going to be a survey. I'm just going to collect feedback.
Okay.
So I'll report out to you at the next meeting. I received 45 responses. This many people were in favor. I'll try to give you the general feel for it.
Okay.
And I can also, if you want me to, I can print the emails as they come and put them in your drive. No, okay. I'll summarize.
I would
it for
say
you.
I would say no.
I mean, if it's 5, that
Yeah.
if it's 50, I'm good.
Yeah. Well, it's just that because last year was so hard to get the information as quickly as information. Sometimes I didn't think we had like survey information.
Yeah.
So that would be
Yeah.
very helpful.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to actually have it ready to go tomorrow, right after this meeting, because that's actually updated.
Yeah.
So when I send everything out, I think that way we've got 2 weeks before the next meeting, and we've got time to collect feedback, time for people to think about it, and time for you to be prepared to take action in 2 weeks.
Thank you. And it goes to the email addresses that you have.
Yes, it's going to be the Pembroke feedback
Wonderful.
email address again. So.
Okay. Thank
and
you.
I'll put that in my letter home.
Thank you, Andy.
Sure. Dean? Anything?
No, I'm good with this right now.
Yeah, I think I'll reserve most of my comments for next time. I guess personally I'm a little bit weary because I have an under 12 that can't be vaccinated. But I also feel like if the caseload is that low, as any return to normalcy that we can get is great. My head's kind of spinning. I have a lot of thoughts. Without making things ridiculously complicated, I might like to talk about things next time around, like watching that number for Pembroke and also all the sending towns. And, it doesn't even, in my opinion, have to necessarily be that it gets really high. But if it starts to accelerate, if we go from 5 to 10 in 4 days, that's alarming and we need to reevaluate. But I do like the idea of starting, broadly and kind of focusing in when we need to. I'd also like the board to be fairly normal this year and not have to be adding meetings every week to take new, new statistics. So
Targeted interventions like that, and that way we don't have to have a board meeting and have conversation. We know now, the nurses know. Right now they're not even doing contact tracing, and
right.
they're not even doing quarantines. So it's pretty minimal right now, and we can adjust accordingly.
Yeah, and I like that. And I think, going off the model of Mr. Vizina last year with sports, again, we kind of instructed him follow the guidelines and err on the side of caution. I think he did a great job. And if our principals and our nurses do the same, hopefully we'll be in a good spot. Anything else anybody wants to say on back to school plan? All right, then moving on to 7D, board goals review. we won't stay here long since we're missing a couple of members. We talked a lot about our goals in our, I don't remember the date, but our last meeting in July. One thing that I did want to bring up, I mentioned at that meeting, putting back on our radar, reaching out to Mr. Garvin regarding the Grange building. That has become, in my opinion, somewhat more urgent since somebody ran into it over the 4th of July holiday. Oh, okay. I can do that. So I shouldn't speculate, but somebody passed out while driving, as far as I know, and they went through the parking lot of the daycare, through the fence, and into the side of the building. Luckily, I think everybody was okay, but there's a hole now. So I know Mr. Garvin has vested interest in that building for historical purposes. I know he's also told us in the past that there may be grant funds available as long as it's still owned by a public entity like ourselves. So I had intended to reach out to him soon to discuss that building anyhow. So I think that that's something that I will take on and see if he can join us in the near future to discuss our options as far as he knows them. Mr. Coughlin, if you've got information on that, go right ahead.
Sorry, Josh. Meant to let you bring that up during CIP and it's on my mind.
That's all right. So all that information is correct. The newest update on the Grange building is I have been able to get a mason on site, check it out, and I got a quote just maybe an hour before to fix just that hole, nothing else that might be needed to fix the inside, etc. So the price was $6,500 to fix the hole.
Is that something we're responsible for, or is that the car insurance of?
Yeah, so it's going to come down to probably he said, she said. So either way, it's going to go through our insurance, and then the insurance would fight it out with if they quote unquote have insurance. So I think that's probably some of the game that will be played on that end. Structurally, the building's sound. It's not going to collapse tomorrow, but it doesn't mean we would just occupy that building tomorrow with that hole. So the way it sits right now is just one more thing to add to everybody's list.
Right. Right. Well, hopefully we've got somewhat more spare time this year to talk about things like that instead of focusing on a virus for the entire school year. Yeah. Is there wood around here? Wait, go ahead. Ann.
I did have a quick question about the Grange. There's a lot of local artists in Pembroke who have been asking for a space that they could just do like a show. The library, we're not able to have that much room, so they were looking to get information on the Grange once we're back to normal.
Yeah.
But is that something that we could rent out to them?
So it was closed. So the Grange actually used to meet there. And I think that we found out that historically we had like a $1 lease for them or something because we still technically own it. But not long before you were elected, the part of the ceiling fell down. And it just was, we didn't have money set aside to fix it. And I don't know if anybody really knows the process. But again, that's where Mr. Garvin comes. I don't know if you know Jim. He's Epsom, I think. But he's a Grange member. But he is also a historian and knows the historical significance of that. It's called Schoolhouse Number 1 or something like that, and it had architectural significance. And apparently, a lot of other schoolhouses in the state were based off of its design. So he has a lot of interest and love for that building. At the time, he also told us that he used to work for DES, and part of his job was to deal with grants for historical buildings. And so he offered that he would help us write such a grant now that he's retired, and that there are funds available to fix the roof or the ceiling rather, and some other things, and that he thought we would stand a pretty good shot. But those are contingent on the fact that it still is owned by a public entity. So if we were to sell that, but we had it on the warrant a couple of years ago to explore selling the building, but it was on Mr. Garvin's recommendation that we keep it because we might be able to renovate it that way. So that's kind of where it stands. We can't let anybody in there right now. It's not inhabitable. But hopefully, if we can find funds, I'd like to get it that way. And then once that's open, I don't know, there's lots of options on the table, I suppose.
Okay, thank you.
And I think the Grange talked about moving either to the library or to that little historical society building near in the library parking
Oh,
lot. I'm not
okay.
sure where they ended up, but
Yes.
we had to ask them to relocate.
Yeah, because Dan brought it to the town, for the selectmen to purchase.
Right.
But we
right.
didn't feel comfortable purchasing it because we just had on the warrant to get rid of Perry
Y-
Eaton building.
Right. Yep. And that
So-
same time, we were going to go. We had it on the warrant to let the public go, and then Mr. Garvin came to a meeting and he was like, "We should hold off." So.
Thank you.
One more question for Josh on that building, the masonry repair, because it is historically significant. Are they going to be repairing it with period type?
So they're
Masonry?
looking for period type bricks. That's debatable if they get them, and if not, they'll cut them down to the period size that they
Yeah.
are.
Interesting.
Again, that price doesn't include anything inside that might be needed. And to Andy's point on the ceiling, a couple years ago, half of it fell down in areas, other areas that have started now.
Oh. Okay. Anything else on board goals quickly? I know we'll keep this on here, I think, regularly, and since there's only a few of us tonight, spend a lot of time. If there's anything that you guys wanted to mention, feel free.
Can I just ask a question?
Sure thing.
I'm just curious about your vision for putting the goals into a format that's, measurable and achievable. 'Cause there was a lot of conversation, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that's why it was on here tonight. But I don't think we can really do that with
So
three
wait
of
till
us.
next time.
Yeah. I
Okay,
think
I'll
we'll,
put it
we'll
on.
keep it on next time, and I guess I would encourage everybody to review those and start thinking about how do we formalize them? Can we put them in a smart format or something similar, so that we can make progress on them. So I think that's all for 7D. So we do have some policies. Ms. Villani asked that we not take action on IHBG tonight. If she's interested in that policy and can join us.
Can we move all of them to our next meeting?
Definitely the first readings. Is there anything that you need tonight in the second reading section, Patty?
I just have one question concerning IHBG. We've spent a lot of time on it already, so I'm wondering what, I don't want to make this sound, what recourse do we have, or what accountability do homeschoolers have to the school district? And aside from extracurriculars and special ed considerations, what is our responsibility?
Yeah, please.
Chooses to home educate their child, they do not get special ed services. So the children are able to access our extracurricular activities, but our obligation ends. So our obligation is to inform families of the process to move their child into homeschool status. So we make sure we have links to the form, links to the website. The contact person is listed for the SAU on our website. So it's really just about meeting the requirements. And there used to be a requirement for home educated students to give us, either do an evaluation with us or provide results of an evaluation, but that law was changed years ago. And so once a parent makes that choice, the entire education falls on the parent. There's no connection to the school in terms of evaluating or monitoring grades or any of that.
Guess what? Where I am with this is we did have spent probably several hours on this topic already, and where is a policy we have to have in place. I think a lot of further discussion isn't really warranted, since we don't. There is no accountability aside from extracurriculars on our end. So I'd like, we'll move it forward, but discussion on this next meeting.
Yeah, and I don't know. I have to look at. It's been a little while, but I think next meeting, if we can't come to some sort of agreement on language, I would be in favor of approving the school board recommended policy, at least so we have something. And then if board members have modifications, they can always bring those to the table subsequently, and we can discuss. But at least we have something.
So you did approve that version.
Oh, we did
Yeah,
the latest one?
Yes.
Okay.
So
I'm sorry.
it was approved And then April asked for basically reconsideration, and she brought forward the policy from the network that she's
Right.
familiar, or I'm not sure it's
Okay,
part
I
of it.
just didn't remember that we
Yeah,
had.
and then we had our lawyer opine on it, and then she asked for school board association opinion, and I provided that and put it in your drive.
Okay.
So there's no action to take unless someone wants to change the policy.
Okay, good to know. All right, I didn't remember that we had taken the step to approve the new school board one. So, okay, then if nobody else has anything particular on the second reading items, I would like to not start the year with a big backlog. So if we can tackle as many of these as possible next time, that would be fantastic. And one of our goals, as a reminder, is exploring the possibility of setting up a policy subcommittee of maybe 2 of us to look at some of these ahead of time and kind of bring the board a summary so that we can maybe get through them a little bit more quickly and efficiently. So we can talk about that too. So with that, we'll move on to number 9, which is our second public comment section. We still have a few folks in the audience, so if anybody wants to contribute to public comment, we've got 15 minutes.
Is this good?
Upload. You can take it right out of there if you want to, Mark.
Okay. I came here tonight because I was hoping I could comment about the masks.
You just name and street.
Oh. Mark Dumont, 36 Donna Drive.
Thanks.
So I came here hoping to be able to comment about the masks. I want to share a little bit about what my kids kind of go through when they're wearing the masks. All last year, they complained about headaches, which is not normal for them. I've had my daughter pass out from heat exhaustion while wearing a mask. It's not healthy for the kids, not emotionally, physically, not educational wise. The teachers need to see their faces. We need to see their beautiful smiling faces. We need to see when they're not smiling too. They need to see each other. We're going to be dealing with a lot of effects emotionally, even and hopefully not physically. There's a study out there that suggests that it increases, not even just suggests, shows that it increases CO2 in their blood when they're breathing. I think long term, we're going to find out that there's harmful effects with this. I mean, thank goodness COVID isn't dangerous to them. I mean, we have 0 kids that have died in New Hampshire from it. I think it's around 200 kids in the nation, and they all had multiple issues going on. I mean, I wish when the flu comes back, because we know when we go back to normal that flu numbers are going to rise. I wish the numbers could be that low for the children that suffer from the flu, from the effects from the flu also. But thank God the children were spared. Thank goodness that all the teachers have had the chance to get the vaccine. I think at this point, there's more than an argument to be made that people need to be allowed to make their own choices. Parents, they know what's best for their kids. If they think their kids can handle masks and they want their kids to wear masks, by all means. I don't want to see my parents. I don't want to see my kids masked up. It's not right. It's not good for them. We've been blessed in New Hampshire. We need to be responsible. Of course, I think we need to keep being clean. I think this pandemic's shown that, wash your hands. You blow your nose with your hands, wash your hands. You don't wash your hands for 1 minute, 3, 4, 5 minutes, scrub. It's kind of things that we all take for granted, because some of us are like that. We get, at work, I get picked on, like, called the doctor before this pandemic even started, because I wash my hands for probably about 3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. It's just how I am. But now I see everyone at work doing it, which is funny. But the public is smart. You need to trust the parents. You need to trust the public. You need to let us make the decisions, because if we see something's working, we go to it. When you tell people what to do, even if it's working, they're going to fight against it. You're going to have more problems than anything else. It's time to start trusting the public. In New Hampshire, I think we did an okay job at that. We didn't lock down like other states did, and I think we've seen the benefits from it. I also think that we have a couple other things going on. We don't have a lot of public transportation in New Hampshire. Our population density is relatively
30 seconds.
and but other than that, I want everyone to just think about free choice and the benefit that we get from that. And I want to thank you guys for letting me talk.
Thank you. Anybody else? I don't see anybody moving. So, oh, what's the small letter for me, Patty?
Both B and C.
Okay. So the board has need to go into non-public session in accordance with New Hampshire RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2, small letters B and C. You said, right? Sorry, I was already. On a roll call vote,
Yes.
Yes.
and I'm a yes. So take a minute.
I did.
Yeah, there's some trails down there.
All right, I think we're set.
Okay. So
ready?
to seal the minutes first.
Move that we seal the minutes from our non-public session.
I'll second.
Right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Cool. Nation.
Resignation.
I
Yep.
move we accept the resignation presented to us.
I'll second.
Right, all in favor of accepting the resignation of the English teacher?
Aye.
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 Opposed and abstentions? Great.
Okay, I'd like to nominate Brandon Rich as math teacher at Pembroke Academy.
I'll second.
Right, questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed and abstentions? There was one more. Seal the minutes. All right. Okay. So our next scheduled meeting is August 17th at 6:30. We'll still be here. We'll still be broadcast. Don't expect any changes of the meeting situation anytime soon. So with that, I will accept the motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 7:53. Oh, sorry, 7:57.